Tiffany, you told us you traveled, and I quote, thousands of light years to get here. Yes. Tell us the truth, or the Lord will never leave you. The truth comes. All I thought about how unusual. To travel in time is to travel in space. Or from Spacial Divergence. So I take it aliens took over.
By now, you've probably heard about or even seen this new video out. It's all over YouTube. Supposedly, the rumor is it got put out there by WikiLeaks. Now, this video is supposedly of an alien who they're doing an interview of him. And they're not very specific in the time frames, but because it's black and white, people are assuming it's from the 50s or the 60s. Now, we're not going to dive into the question today, is the video legitimate? No. I'm going to show you a clip of the so-called alien talking. This is a picture of him. But what I'd like to go over is the word he uses. He uses this word or phrase, offset spatial divergence. We're going to go over that a little bit, and we're also going to dive into the legend. The legend that possibly this is the same alien who visited Howard Hughes during the 1960s when Howard Hughes lived in Las Vegas in the penthouse of the DI. Las Vegas legend has it that they brought this alien from Area 51 down to see Howard Hughes because he never left the penthouse. This was a time in his career, his life, when he lived on the penthouse of the DI and he never left. Again, we're talking legend here. This is all legend. But there are many people now talking that this is the same time frame, that this possibly could be the same alien. Now, I know this sounds absurd, and who knows, it could be just legend. But I'm going to tell you the story the way I heard it, from Jean-Paul d'Itinay. Now, Jean-Paul was a food runner. He worked at the Desert Inn. Now, as legend, as we know, legend says that Howard Hughes came into Las Vegas the end of 1966. And when he arrived, he went to the Desert Inn. You know the story. He ended up buying the Desert Inn. He was living in a penthouse for many years. But the time he spent there at a DI, he never opened his blinds. The blinds and the curtains were always closed. And supposedly he had a beard. Now I don't think the food runners ever really got a good look at Howard Hughes. From what I can tell, the stories I hear, even the food runners didn't get a good look at him. But the legend has it that sometime in the late 60s, that there were military-type people, almost CIA in suits, who came from Area 51, and they brought this mysterious creature with them. It was all covered with a hood and cloak and dagger type of stuff. And the legend is that the alien met Howard Hughes in the penthouse of the DI. I know this sounds absurd, but that's the legend. That's the legend. I'm just going to tell you the story the way I heard it from Jean-Paul d'Itinay. And he was a food runner in the late 60s, DI. So, without further explanation of that legend, we're going to go on to the new story. Is this new video of the alien, is this new video credible? Is it real? Well, I have my theories on that. But let's go into the thing I think is most interesting in that video, and the words or the phrase he uses to how he came back in time. See, he was a space traveler, or more importantly, he's a time traveler, and he uses the word, or I keep on saying word, the phrase offset spatial divergence. That really interested me because, well, let's go over the definition of the word. So first, we'll talk about the word divergence, and we're going to talk about it in the definition, calculus definition. You could vaguely one definition is that divergence is the volume density of the outward flux of vector field, blah, 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 around a given point. Now, what's that mean in layman's term? Basically, it's like filling up an area with hot air. And as the air gets hotter, it's expanding, and what we're trying to decipher is the volume density of the outward flux of the vector field, and that's the positive side of it. Whereas if the air is cooling down, then you're talking the negative side of it. So there is that calculus definition of divergence. And now when we put that together with offset, now let's go to the first word, offset. Now offset is the amount or distance by which something is out of line or counteracting or having an opposing force or effect. And of course, when you go to the middle word of the phrase spatial, spatial is space. So it's a very, very interesting phrase. So if we look at it in terms of the definition that we know, which could possibly be totally different than what the alien is talking about, but we're basically talking about maybe a distance or a time or distance that's out of whack, out of line in space, whereas if you use the volume density of the outward flux of the vector field, if you use some sort of energy field that can expand time and space, and it's offset, and you counteract it because the distance is out of line. You follow me? This is a very interesting phrase. If you want to change space, if you want to manipulate space, take it like, the Earth is just following the sun around in a pattern, okay? So if the Earth is following the sun around in a pattern, if you could actually pause and then go back to the time or the space that Earth was following the sun, 1,000 years earlier, if you could do that by changing the volume density of the outward flux of the vector field through some sort of energy heat level, you could actually manipulate the space and time as we know it. And we're really going out here on this is really going out there. And I know you're saying, man, that's a bunch of bullshit. That's a bunch of bullshit. But I just wanted to say, hey, that phrase, offset spatial divergence, it caught my attention. And I wanted to give you a little bit of definition of that phrase because you don't hear it very often. And I will say this about that video. That alien, his mouth, of course, is not moving naturally, but that alien is saying a lot of interesting things that you know that you've thought about before. Huh? It's strange. Very, very interesting video out there. And if WikiLeaks put it out, hey, God bless them. I'll leave you with this because there's one part of the video that they kind of cut out, and I'm going to tell you the part they cut out. So let's listen to it.
Okay, yesterday you told us you traveled, and I quote, thousands of light years to get here. Yes. Tell us the truth, word for word, or never leave here.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you what they scrambled there. What they scrambled was, they said, tell us the truth or we're going to cut your air supply off. I'm serious. Now, you can tell that the alien is having a hard time breathing. You see, his breathing is a different sort of oxygen level. So they have to give him a different type of oxygen carbon dioxide mixture. And that's how they got him to supposedly tell the truth. They said, tell us the truth or we're going to shut your air supply off. Now, they had to scramble that because it just didn't look good. The CIA, torturing aliens. It just doesn't sit well with Americans.